friends, welcome to the Share Report. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, follow along, share this channel with others. And for those who are returning, thank you so much for your support and for being here. Share this channel with others as well. I say this all the time, this whole video setting, everything that I do on this channel is about educating ourselves, knowing what we're up against, knowing history, and just getting involved and not sitting on our hands. So thank you again for being here. Share this and all the things. So let's dive right into this video. So I have been doing a series where we're talking about biblical history, things in the Bible, starting from the beginning. My basis for starting this series was to show that from the very beginning, we've always, Christians or the good people, which are Christians, have always had to stand up against evil things and be active and not just sit on our hands and think that things are just going to happen because we're good. It's always been a battle or enmity between good versus bad, and there's always going to be that until the very end, until the Lord returns. So that was my main purpose for starting the series, and it kind of just branched out. People had questions, and I was like, well, I'm enjoying this series. I love the Bible. I love sharing, wisdom and knowledge and, educating people and teaching people. And I do a lot of reading myself and studying myself. So I was like, why not start a whole series and just share weekly? So that's how this has started. So if you have not watched the first of the series, make sure you start at the very beginning. I'm going to start a playlist. So if you wanted to go back and look at things and review things, that's where it will be. So the last video I had stopped with Noah. We had started at the very beginning talking about Adam and Eve. I went through that, Cain and Abel. And now we're at the point of where the flood will be. Noah and the ark, what everybody knows, Noah and the ark, and the flood, and what brought about the flood. Men were very violent, very evil, very wicked, and God was like, I'm just sad that I made humanity. It was to that point where humans were very bad. So I wanted to backtrack a little bit and just kind of give you an overall summary of the book of Genesis. So I'm going to insert some posters and some visuals for you to see in this video to follow along, just to kind of so you can have me speaking to you, and then you can also see visually as well. That kind of helps auditory and visual with learning. So what I wanted to say about the book of Genesis, it covers a large span of history. So as we know, it starts with the first man, as we know, Adam, and it goes all the way to Joseph, who ends up being the ruler in Egypt, and that's where it ends. Okay, so Genesis starts with Adam, the first man, then it goes with Noah, the last man in the old world, and I'm going to explain that in a second. So the first world that was created was the first world created for humanity was when God made Adam. Like we went over in Genesis, we talked about the beginning of all things, habitat for humanity. God had to create this habitation for humanity to live and to dwell. It's almost like you want to buy fish, but first you're going to buy the aquarium and all the necessary equipment for the fish to live in the aquarium. That's basically what God did. He equipped the earth for humanity to live and to dwell and to habitate. So that first, from Adam to Noah, was the first world. People lived during that time period. And then now we're talking about Noah. And then there was a whole new world that started over with 8 people. So that's why we call it the new second world. So right now we're living in the second world of, obviously, the natural world. The third world that's coming is the ultimate world we're all looking for, which is the resurrection or eternal life, or when Jesus comes. That is the last world that we will be living in, and there will be no more of this that we're living in now. So the first man, as you can see in the chart, the first man was Adam, and the last man in the first realm, first world, was Noah. We're going to pick back up on that again. The next one in the new world was Shem. Shem was one of Noah's 3 sons, and we will also talk about him as well. So he was in the new world, and God told them to reproduce, replenish the earth, because lots of people got wiped out. And think of the word replenish. That means something was there before, you're replenishing it. So they're replenishing with people. So, and then we got the beginning of the nation of Israel. The father of the nation of Israel, which we know as Abraham, once named Abram. So we'll eventually go through all this, but I just want to briefly touch on it. So then we have the promised seed, which was Isaac. God promised Abraham and Sarah that they would have a son, and his name was Isaac. He was the promised child. Then next we have the developer of the nation, Jacob. He's the one who had 12 sons, and he had one daughter, Dinah, so 13 children altogether. He's the one, Jacob, renamed Israel, which we know is the nation of Israel now, who started the whole nation of Israel with all of his sons, and they were tribes. And they all eventually got their own land in the promised land after Joseph. So once they went through Egypt in 40 years in the wilderness, they all got their land. And think of those 12 tribes of Jacob. They all became like what you would consider like counties, like that. And they all got their land, and they reproduced and became a whole nation as we know today. So I just wanted to give you that brief summary, and then we're going to backtrack and go back to Noah. So as I mentioned, things were very evil during that time. God's like, I'm done with these people. I'm just going to start over again. But as we know, we had read that in Genesis 6 verse 8, in the middle of all the badness, there's always someone good. There's always someone good. And we're going to read Genesis 6:8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So Noah found favor with God. So God kept him and his family. It was Noah, his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives. So that's 8 people that went into the ark. God told him how to build it. So he's preparing for a long period of time. And then he says, okay, you need to collect some food and you need to collect the animals. So one thing that is always taught, even when growing up, when I was really, really, really little, it was taught that there was only 2 animals that went in the ark, 2 of every kind of animal, male and female. But I wanted to point something out because I think people miss one portion that's actually pretty vital, pretty good information that you should know about how many animals actually went into the ark in pairs and the amount of each kind. So I'm going to point that out to you. So in Genesis 7 verse 1, and the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by 7s, not 2, 7s, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. So I wanted to point that out to you, that the clean animals, as we would know, like let's say goats, sheep, cow, how they were defined by being clean, which is pretty amazing in the dietary law. Kind of branching out a little bit, we can touch base on this, is if they were clean, if they had cloven feet or like hoofed feet that were split, and if they chewed the cud. If you're around cattle, if you're around animals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They chew and they chew and they chew. They kind of like bring it back up and they chew again. Those were considered clean animals. So a cow, when they went into the ark, a cow and a sheep, they went in by 7. So that was an odd number. So why do you think it was an odd number? Okay. So I'm going to leave that out. I'm going to let you think of why there were 7. There was an odd number of the clean animals and an even number of unclean. And I want you guys to leave in the comment section why you think that the clean was 7. I'm not going to tell you until the next video. So, all right. So we touched base on that. So they get in the ark and they're there for a very, very, very long time. And then things settle down. So once things settled down, you know, God sent out the raven, which is like a symbol of death. The raven came back, and then the dove, and the dove came back with a little olive branch, and the dove went back out again and never came back. So then they knew that it was nice and dry and everybody could leave the ark. The ark rested on Mount Ararat, which I will show you in the other poster that you can see a visual. So then that's when God told them to replenish and reproduce and bear children. So as we know that there was Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And out of those 3 sons came what people call the 3, people say race. And technically, that's really not a biblical term. There's no such thing as race. We can say the human race because we're all humans. We're all a part of the human race. But technically, we can say three nations, if you will, or three categories of groups of people. So as we know now that there are the Negroid, which is me, and then we have the Mongoloid people, which you would consider like the Asians, and the Semitic type people, and the Caucasoid, I think that's how you pronounce the word, which are European people. So those three categories of people branch out and made multiple nationalities and ethnicities that we know today. So it's very interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, the black race or the white race or the Asian race, when it's really not a race. It's all one human race. And there came multiple nations off of these three men. There's also scientific evidence for that as well. If you're still studying, you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure. There is scientific evidence of that. So Shem was what we would consider the Mongoloid group of people, which are like the Asian, Semitic, Middle Eastern, people of that sort. So you would say the Jews came from Shem, which is why he is mentioned as the New World and also the ancestor of Abraham and all of the forefathers of the nation of Israel, is because he created or started the Semitic nations. So Shem, Israel came from the line of Shem, and if you are a black person like myself, obviously, then you came off of Ham. There's lots to talk about Ham and his line, as well as Shem's. And then Japheth, so if you are of the Caucasian white group of people, Japheth. So lots of nations, European people came from Japheth. So that's how it got started. So that's a lot to unpackage. We can talk more. In my next video, we will touch base, and I'm going to see if you guys found the answer of why there were 7 people, or 7 animals, I'm sorry, of each of the categories. I'm going to see if you know the answer to that, and we will pick back up because there's a lot to unpackage about the nation. So I hope you enjoyed this deep dive series into biblical history and learning more about the Bible. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave comments. I love reading them. I love sharing this. This has been wonderful. So thank you so much for joining. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.